Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Rabbit Hedgehog, and as you can see, I have a wonderfully large empty parking lot here and a motorcycle. So that means it is part 3 of learning how to ride a motorcycle, and this is where we're going to actually put everything that we learned in practice. In the first couple of videos, I'll discuss about finding the right bike for you, and also making sure that before you even take your bike out, that you go over all the controls and the way it feels with you, and also make sure your fluids are topped off, everything's in adjustment, your tires are properly filled up and everything like that. So you've done all those checks, you've made sure your tires are good, you made sure your controls are functional, you made sure all your lighting was good, all your safety equipment was up to par, and now it is time to actually get on the bike and actually ride. So I've got out here my Harley 1200, let me put that passenger peg up there real fast, and as you can see, she's ready to ride. I got a foot cam here today, so that way I can show you some shifting and stuff like that, what it looks like to shift the motorcycle. Sorry about not having a brake cam, but if you see my hand squeezing the brake on the handlebar there, then you know that I'm braking with my foot too, because I go ahead and use both brakes at all times, and that's what you're supposed to do. That's what they'll teach you in the MSF courses and everything like that. And once again, I'll just make a disclaimer. I'm not an MSF instructor, and this is not a MSF replacement. This is just for people looking into getting into riding and what it's like to ride. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, when you actually go to mount your motorcycle, you start on the left side of the bike. That's the angle it leans at. Whenever you're getting on, grab your front brake, put both hands on the bars, swing your right leg over, and go ahead and lift it up, and put your kickstand up. It'll be an absolute bummer if you keep your kickstand down on accident, because that could cause actually a wreck. Now, like I was saying earlier, we'll kind of do a little bit of a review here. Just remember that your right side, as you can see, brakes, brake, throttle, is on your stop and go side. Your left side, transmission, clutch, is your power side. Why is it the power side? Because without the clutch being out, there's no power to the rear wheel. Without the transmission being in the right gear, you don't have the ample power, or you have the wrong power going to the rear wheel, which will cause you to be too slow, engine speed be too high in rev, things like that. So that's why we always say power side, stop go side. And also over here, as you can see, this is your cutoff switch. All bikes will have it in a slightly different position, but we'll have a cutoff switch somewhere. And here's your start switch. So let's go ahead and turn the ignition on. And then what you do is you make sure your bike is in neutral. However, whenever you go to start, always remember, go ahead, pull your clutch in. Sometimes, even though it says neutral, it can be a false neutral and actually be somewhat in gear. And if you start it and it's somewhat in gear, it'll try to run away with you. Don't want that either. Don't want to see somebody try to start out and they immediately head into a wall. Terrible thing to happen. All right, if you do have a fuel injected bike, this is where you'll listen for your fuel pump to pump up. If you have a carbureted bike and it's a certain temperature outside, usually somewhere in the 50s and below, you're going to want to choke the bike, and that way you can have it start a little bit easier. This bike is fully warmed up, so I don't have to worry about a 5-minute warm-up period, so we can go ahead and get her started. And just as simple as that. Now, if you want to make sure you're neutral, just kind of slowly let on your clutch, and if nothing happens, you're actually in neutral, so it's not a false. All right, so what we're going to talk about first is your friction zone. All motorcycles that are basically a manual transmission like this one will have a friction zone in the clutch. We're going to learn about the positioning on that. We're going to see over on foot cam here how we actually learn about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my feet back here on the heels, and you'll see that, and I'll go ahead and kind of tell you what I'm going to do here. To find your friction zone, we kind of recommend going ahead and releasing the clutch slowly, roll forward till you get to your toes, and pull your clutch back in, and then push your bike back up to your heels again, like that. That way you can kind of find where the friction zone is, but you don't take off or add throttle yet. So I'll go ahead and drop it in the first gear. Bike, so when you drop the first gear, you'll go ahead and click down. You'll hear it engage. And like I said, we'll start on our heels. We'll go ahead and release the brakes here, and we will now go forward a little bit. you'll hear the bike try to give. There I go to my toes. I'll bring her back. Go ahead and put it. There's your friction zone. And then pull back. Like you said, you'll hear your bike bog a little bit. Like so. And go back. Now, when you do find where that friction zone is, you get a good idea where that is. Just like a car, if your bike is in first gear, it can sometimes ride itself. So what we do is the next part is you'll get to kind of learn the weight of the bike. So what we do with that is you slowly release the clutch out and you'll walk with the bike when it has power. Now this bike can actually ride a little bit faster than a walking pattern for a man. So whenever you actually go into walking, just kind of remember, pull your clutch in a little bit if it gets a little bit too fast for you. That way you disengage that power from the rear wheel. We'll go ahead and kind of show you that. I'll work its way through the friction zone. We'll start the walk. As you can see, it's getting really quick for me. I'll go ahead and pull that clutch in. I'll give her a little brake. That way we'll be good. I'll stop there. Go ahead and do that again. Kind of walk with it a little bit, get used to that power, and kind of stop there. Kind of go again, walk with it a little bit, stop, and so on. So kind of do that where you got a wide open space like this and walk your bike a little bit back and forth. When you reach a point, practice your head movements. Go ahead and practice getting your bike in neutral. And then practice your head movements. Say you want to turn right. Turn your head to the right. Turn your handlebars to the right. Walk the bike to the right. Now we're going to perform a U-turn, so turn your head to the left. And look where you want to go. That way you can start practicing your head movements for when you actually start riding the bike. As you can see, it got turned around here. So we'll go ahead and do a little bit more walking here. Put it back in first. Release that clutch a little bit. This is uphill, so it'll be a little bit easier to walk it. You can hear it bogging, but now I'm fully off the clutch, and I'm just walking the bike. Pull the clutch in, go ahead and pull the brake, and slow down. Do it again. Like I said, you'll see that I'm not adding any throttle, just walking it, and there you go. It's kind of that simple. Now, what we're gonna do is you've got practice pretty good. You've got turned around. Like I said, you want to practice those turnarounds a little bit more than what I'm doing here. This is just a basic video. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually go ahead and put our feet on the pegs. So we'll go ahead, start releasing that clutch. Give it a little bit of throttle with your grip. Pull your feet up. Kind of practice doing this a little bit. Don't shift yet. Just kind of ride it up, feel how it feels, go in a straight line. Go ahead and stop using both brakes like I'm doing, and then put your feet down. If you're practicing stops, look both ways, and take off again. And this is just kind of a straight line deal right here. Like I said, I'm not shifting just yet, just kind of getting going. Go ahead and pull that clutch in, go ahead and stop again, both brakes, and feet down. All right, go ahead and practice getting in neutral again. Put it neutral, and then let me make sure my foot cam's good. And then we're going to turn, and this time I'm going to kind of just turn over here and just turn around. Like I said, practice that head movement, because you want to keep your head up, your eyes up, and your head moving whenever you're turning. You always look at where you're going to turn in a motorcycle. That way it's easy. It's actually easier to turn. If you're looking at something else, your body tends to target that, and your brain and everything, and you'll head the wrong direction, and it'll actually cause some problems for you. All right, so now that we've got that down, what we're going to do is we're going to practice going, shifting once to second, and stopping. So we're going to go ahead and put it back into first, click down once, give a little twist to that throttle. If you need to walk it out a little bit, go ahead and do so like that. Get going. When you get up to about 15, shift, like so. Downshift, just click down, release the clutch, both brakes, pull clutch in, stop. Now I know I can go a little bit further, but it's one of those things where I'm just kind of showing you how this works. Go ahead again. Get going, shift, and continue. Just kind of continue in second gear here. Go ahead and both brakes, clutch in, shift down, and stop. And of course, you look both ways where you're going. Now what we're going to do is we're going to practice turning with this, and we're going to do it in second gear. So we'll go ahead and get going. Got both feet on the pegs, shift, give a little bit of throttle when you're shifting. Now when you come up on here, you can kind of brake a little, look where you're wanting to go. If you got a nice wide parking lot like this, go ahead and practice just turning gradually like so. And continue. Go ahead and shift down, both brakes, clutch in, and stop. Now, whenever you actually are going into it, remember, always just give a little bit of throttle. Don't do that. That'll cause you to wreck. Whenever you're releasing that throttle, or that clutch, just whenever you feel that friction zone, give it a bump of a throttle, and make sure it pulls you, and you're good to go. When you shift, just pop up and a little bit of throttle when you're letting the clutch out again. As you're going again, just remember that. Always shift and pop up on that a little bit, and whenever you do that, you pull the throttle out and pull the clutch, or let the clutch out as well, like both ways. I'll show you that. Shift now, and then you let that throttle out a little bit, and you also let your clutch out at the same time. Come up on the turn, slow down a little bit if you need to. Look where you want to go. As you can see, just kind of spot where you're wanting to turn. Go ahead and make the turn and complete. Go ahead and stop here. Now let me see if I can explain a little bit better. It's kind of hard whenever you're moving a little bit, but how the shifting works is whenever you're releasing the clutch, you're applying the throttle like that. So releasing clutch, applying throttle. And then when you shift, it's the same thing. So you pull in the clutch, you shift, you release the clutch, and you pull the throttle at the same time. And that way, you continue to go very smoothly. So I'll just keep going this time. And what I'll do as well is I'm going to make a sharper turn. And if you got little islands like this, practice those sharper turns. I'm going to go ahead and shift down because this bike does not like turning like that. So we'll go ahead and, like I said, just keep an eye where you want to go. Turn and continue. We'll go ahead and shift through. And as you can see, it's that easy to get going on a bike. When you stop, you can use engine braking like so. Just make sure you get your clutch in at the end and both brakes used. And then also, make sure you do variances. I've been going left the whole time, so now let's go ahead and do it right. We'll just go ahead and do that. I'm using some engine braking here. And continue. So that's what you do. Just make sure you kind of get an idea of how this works for you. And just practice in parking lots like this. That way you can get better and better and better before you go to the street. Like I said, using some engine braking here, I'll go ahead and make another right-hand turn. A little bit sharper. Always look where you want to go. And continue out. And shift. And always remember to practice the stop. If you want to add a little bit of variance to it, what you'll do is you come through. Kind of set up a slalom for you so you can kind of get an idea of how your bike moves. Go ahead and round this. Always look where you're wanting to go. Round that. Round this. Practice a little bit of a dogleg turn. And then continue. Like I said, practice your shifting, practice your turning. That way you get an idea of what your bike can do in these conditions. There's going to be times where you're on some roads that are twisty that will switch back and do things like that. And you'll get a good idea of what that feels like. That was a little bit tighter than I was expecting. This is one of those things where I do a lot better when I see the road and I have the obstacles and know what they are instead of the wide open spaces I got. It's one of those kind of deals, but see, kind of get an idea of what you're doing. Practice your downshifting and your braking. Make sure you're off the brakes when you're actually in the turn itself. Okay, and continue on. So riding a motorcycle actually really is easy. It does take coordination. It does take some skill, but it's nothing to be afraid of. It's real easy to do. And a lot of people enjoy doing it. Go ahead and return out. So there you go. Go ahead and put it neutral there. And come to a stop here. So anyway, that's just kind of a brief demonstration of how the motorcycle actually works. So just kind of, like I said, give you that demonstration again, because it's kind of hard to talk and move at the same time. But what you do whenever you're going for your first go, just remember, take it slow. Find your friction zone. Find where the power is going to grab on your motorcycle, and don't push it. Don't give it that gas just yet. Wait until you're ready to put your feet on the pegs and ride straight. Don't turn until you've got that down and you practice your head movements. That means ride straight, find a place to turn around, practice those head movements by walking your bike in neutral. The next thing that you want to do is whenever you are putting your feet on the pegs, if you're uncomfortable at first, do a little walkout as you're riding, and then, you know, release the clutch and pull on the throttle, or twist on the throttle, I should say, and that way you can get going. And then just kind of ride around in first gear at first, and then go straight till you find a point, do that turnaround, get where you're comfortable, and start your shifting. Whenever you do shift, it's the same thing as basically whenever you're taking off for the first time, but instead you are moving, so it is actually a little bit easier to accomplish. So as soon as you go to first, then you click up to second, you pull your clutch in, you click up, and then as you're releasing that clutch, you twist on the throttle again, and you just give it power so that way it can continue on. So it's kind of this motion right here where you're releasing the clutch, you're twisting throttle, releasing clutch, or twisting throttle at the same time. That way the bike is keeping up with the road speed, with the engine speed, and things like that, and you don't bog down. Whenever you're downshifting, it's a little bit different in that you want to make sure that your bike is going to not lock its rear tire up, meaning that whenever you release the clutch, the transmission and the engine are not spinning so fast that, or I should say that the bike's not moving so fast that it overpowers those components and will actually cause your tire to lock up in the back if you downshift wrong. It is a little bit scary at first, but just don't panic. Let the bike slow its way down, and it should be fine. Just make sure you kind of counter steer into it if you need to. Don't pull your brakes or anything because you'll high center or something like that. But it is a very temporary condition. It just squeaks for a second and lets go. You may squirrel about a bit, but that's if you downshift wrong. You're going to do it a few times when you're first learning. It happens to everybody. But make sure that you get some points. Your manual is actually a good place to look at. Your bike will show the downshift points and everything like that. That way, when you do downshift, it's at a good point where the tires not go, or the wheels and the back not going fast enough that it locks up because the transmission and the engine are moving too slow for that condition. So just kind of remember that whenever you're downshifting. Remember that it's going to be a little bit different than your upshift. But if you don't want to, you can always pull the clutch in, and because it's a sequential manual, you click all the way down the first and it will stop there. You can't actually click any further than that, just like when you're going up to your top gear. Once it gets that top gear, it won't click up any further as well. So it tells you when you can and cannot shift. That's a good thing. Some bikes have gear counters, so it tells you where you are, so that way you're good too. So there's just kind of a review and a lesson on how to get the bike going, how to start riding a bike for the first time, and make sure, like I said, don't get on the streets just yet. Find a good buddy that can truck your motorcycle over or can ride it over for you, and that way you can practice in a good parking lot that's empty. And if anything happens, it'll be just an embarrassment on you, and nobody else would be involved or anything like that, because you definitely don't want to get in a wreck with a car. This is the Rabbit Hedgehog. If you do have any questions, any more things you want to know about riding a bike, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them as quick as I can, or make another video that will explain that a little bit better. If there's anything else that you want me to go over in terms of checking the bike for safety and things like that, let me know as well. Everybody have a great day. We'll catch you on the flip side, and hopefully we'll talk about riding in the rain next. As you can see, we're about to get some. Have a great one, everybody.